Well, good afternoon, everyone. We are here, and we are live, and we are ready to go. Thank you for joining us today for our, what's today? Thursday edition of New Hope Radio. Been away for a while, kind of went to some warmer weather for a few days, and you know, when I left here, the weather wasn't bad. So I leave the warm weather and come home, and it's freezing. Talk about bad timing. But I'm glad to be with you today here on New Hope Radio, on Facebook at newhopecc.tv. You can click Facebook or YouTube. Joan is already checking in. We're on 1590 on the AM dial, 92.7 on the FM dial, and WARV.net. Love coming your way, all these different ways. Right, Deb? Deb's on board today. So let's have a good program. We've been talking. We started a series a couple of weeks ago, and we asked the question, what is God like? And today we're going to kind of continue to look at that aspect of getting to know God. And it's so important to get to know God. Today we're going to see how God revealed himself. You know, the reality is that God has made himself known. He really has. And there's there's no excuse as to why people don't know him. A lot of people don't know him because they just don't want to. That's all. And I believe, and I really believe this, that if someone really wants to know God, they will get to know him. He will reveal himself to them. And we're going to see today the different ways that God has revealed himself to people. Robin, she's ready to go too. She's like right there, man, ready. I want to know how God has revealed himself. And this is one of the greatest topics. It really is one of the greatest things that you can learn, because this topic today, here it comes. It helps everybody. It helps everybody. Now, quick review. When we began this topic a couple of weeks ago, we learned that if you want to know what God is like, you need to know his attributes, which are the qualities, the characteristics that he possesses. And what we saw is very comforting. The attributes of God are very comforting to people. We saw that, and that means we don't have to fear God. That's the key. We saw that he rules from his omniscience. That means he knows everything. There's no surprises with God. Okay? He knows everything. He rules from his holiness, that he's set apart, unique from all others. He rules from his righteousness. Everything he does is right. He rules from his love. He's always treating us in love. He rules in truth. There's never a lie in God. He rules in freedom, that God is free to do as he pleases, but remember, it's always in line with his attributes: righteousness, love, truth. Okay? Don't forget that. He rules in his omnipotence. He's got all the power. If you're on God's side and God's on your side, you've got all the power that you need to get through life. He is eternal. No beginning, no end. He's going to go on forever and ever and ever. And he is immutable. He rules from his immutability. You know what that means? He doesn't change. He's never in a bad mood. You know, throughout history, when kings were in bad moods, they chopped off people's heads. God is never in a bad mood. Why? He's love. He's truth. He's omniscient. He knows it all. He's righteous. He's holy. There's no room for a bad news when you possess those qualities. And God is sovereign. He doesn't answer to anybody. God does what's right. He does what he pleases, but what he pleases is always right. Okay? Got to get that down. So He is not a God of man's making. He is unlike any other, and he has chosen to reveal himself to us. In our time together today, we will see how God has chosen to reveal himself to mankind. Okay, I don't know if we're going to get through. I want to go nice and slow on this one. I want us to absorb it, to really get it. So maybe it'll take a couple of days to get through it, and that's just fine. Now, you know that we are living in a day of, I guess what you would call a knowledge explosion, right? It's like the more knowledge we get, the faster we get even more knowledge. It's just exploding all around us. And yet, with all that is being discovered and all that is being learned, man has forgotten the greatest knowledge. And you know the greatest knowledge? The knowledge of his Creator. That's like the greatest knowledge of anything. The knowledge of God. There is no greater knowledge than the knowledge of your Creator. And you know why? Because that's where all our questions are answered. That's where, here it comes, the purpose of life is discovered. When you have knowledge of your Creator, you have knowledge of life and the purpose of life. Now, another word for Bible stuff, this series is entitled Bible Stuff, stuff we should know from the Bible. Another word for Bible stuff is, I would call Bible doctrine. Doctrine. Doctrine is a biblical word. It's a word that's found in the Bible, and it has to do with what? Learning. Paul said to Timothy, in pointing out these things to the brethren, in other words, Timothy, when you teach other Christians, you'll be a good servant of Jesus Christ, consistently nourished on the words of the faith and the sound doctrine which you have been following. Now, I want you to notice something here. Doctrine is not just what we learn. Doctrine is what we follow. And the word follow, it means to conform to follow near. So what we're saying is that when we boil down knowledge of God, the purpose of it is to follow it. Here it comes. It's to conform our lives to it. Now look at the landscape of all those that say they believe in God. How many have conformed their life to it? I don't think it's the majority. I think it's the minority. There are many, 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 many people that would say they believe in the existence of God, but that's as far as it gets. It's a head knowledge. They haven't, as the Bible said, followed those teachings. They haven't conformed their lives to those teachings. Paul said to a man named Titus, he said, as for you, Titus, speak the things which are fitting for sound doctrine. In other words, give the people what they need, that they can conform their lives to it. See, Titus was on a mission to an island called Crete. And it was a mess. And Paul sent him there to straighten some things out. There was a saying about the people that lived in Crete. And you know what the saying was? Cretans are always liars. How'd you like to be known as someone that's always lying? You know he's lying. Why? His lips are moving. You say that about politicians. Well, the people in Crete were always liars, and Titus had to go straighten them out. And he had to correct some errors. So he had to bring them, here it comes, sound doctrine. When you're choosing a church, make sure you choose a church that teaches sound doctrine. That's the most important thing, because that's what you conform your life to. If it's not sound doctrine, you're going to line up your life with the wrong things, and you're going to be steered astray. So that's number one, sound doctrine. Okay? Listen to the teachings. We have so much technology today. You can go online, you can listen to the teachings of a pastor, and you can investigate churches. If you're looking for churches, you can listen to their messages and see, is it sound doctrine? And sometimes you got to listen to a few before you're able to decide if it's sound doctrine. Very, very important, okay? So, how God revealed himself is important to know, because many people do ask the question, does God exist? Does God exist? This will be a good program to like and share at the end, especially if you have people, friends in your circle, that don't yet believe in God. This might help them. This might give them at least the encouragement to seek out God. Or maybe to open their eyes and be honest about it and say, wow, you know what? If I'm on an honest search for God, I'll find him. And that's what we want to do here on New Hope Radio. Give people information that they can be on an honest search for God. Okay? Hey, maybe even as a Christian, maybe there are some Christians that are listening today. And there have been times in your life when you had doubts about God. That's not uncommon. You know, one day you put your faith in Jesus Christ and you said, yes, he's my Savior. And then things happened in your life and they caused you to doubt and wonder, maybe adverse circumstances. And they were really serious and you started to doubt the love of God and the care of God. Maybe you even started to doubt God. Is there really God? So that's why today's message is so important. I want to give you today 3 arguments for the existence of God. Okay? 3 ways to look at the existence of God. Number 1, it's called cause and effect. Okay? Cause and effect. We are reminded of cause and effect everywhere we look in the world. Right? Every effect has a cause. Right? A little ripple in the water. What caused the ripple? Something did. You ever see a nice, calm, glass-like pond? And all of a sudden, ooh, there's a ripple. What caused the ripple? Something did. It could have been wind. Or it could have been a turtle that jumped in, or a frog. Maybe somebody threw a stone. The ripples just don't happen by themselves. There is a cause to the ripple. Do you ever see a golf ball fly through the air? What caused that golf ball to fly through the air? Somebody hit it with a golf club, right? I mean, golf balls just don't fly through the air. Something has to cause it. Usually somebody hit it with a golf club and pew, took off, right? A baby crying. What caused the tears to flow from that little baby? Babies don't cry for nothing. Something caused the baby to cry. What was it? Could be a wet diaper. Maybe the baby got scared. Maybe it was a loud noise. Point being, there is a cause to every effect. The existence of our planet, planet Earth. How did it get here? Now, the intellects will tell us it got here by chance. But think about it. Not only is our planet here in the perfect spot, how did life on the planet come to be? How did that get here? There has to be cause and effect. So whether it's ripples in the water, flying golf balls, baby tears, planet Earth, and life that's on the earth, all must be the effect of something or someone that caused it. See how simple this is? You don't have to be a literal genius. Matter of fact, sometimes the more intellectual people are, the more difficult it is for them to understand cause and effect. something like this: the existence of God. I'm glad I'm simple. I'm glad I'm numbered among the simple folk. I'm glad I'm not a professor at Harvard or Yale. You know why? Because I'd be too smart to know God. I would think I know more than God. You know the sad commentary? Harvard and Yale began as schools of theology. When they began their existence, they taught the greatest knowledge of God. I don't know what happened. Something happened over the years, and the knowledge of God was replaced. It was replaced with humanism. Humanism began to take over. And now we have these great theological schools run by atheists, and there's no theology there at all. Now, the intellects would say that all these things happen by chance. I mean, they won't say a baby crying happens by chance, or they won't say a ripple in the water happens by chance, or they won't say a golf ball flying through the air happens by chance, but they will say planet Earth happened by chance, and the complex life forms that are on the Earth happen by chance, which to me doesn't make sense. Makes me want to put my head under the back tire of my car and roll it down a hill over me. That's what it makes me want to do, but I won't, because I like my head the way it is, round rather than flat. You need to understand there's got to be a cause to Earth and life on it. And that cause is God. You know, it takes more faith to believe that life on Earth happened by chance as a long process than the fact that God was the cause. It doesn't take a lot of faith to believe God was the cause. It takes more faith to believe it happened by chance, when yet nothing else happens by chance. Nothing else. The simplest things in life don't happen by chance, and yet the most complex thing happens by chance. How does that happen? How? So the first argument for the existence of God, of how God revealed himself, is cause and effect. The second argument for how God reveals himself is the fact that, oh, I like this one, that we see purpose in the world. There's great purpose in the world. We are not only faced with a world, but the world seems to have a purpose to it. For instance, okay, let's take a look at how the whole world is set up. We have what's called the balance of nature. That there are things in nature that happen that sustain life. Okay, I remember this from high school science. Photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? Remember that? It's the chemical reaction in plants which turns carbon dioxide into oxygen. Now, how smart is God? If you've ever had a fish tank, I had a fish tank years ago, a little one. What are those, 5-gallon fish tanks? And you put a few kinds of fish in there. But you know what you had to put in that fish tank? You had to put a filter and a pump. And it blew oxygen into the water. So the bubbles, right? Blah, 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 right? The fish had to have oxygen in the water. So when they swim around, the water would go through their gills and the oxygen would go into their bodies, right? But we had to put that pump there. You know what God has done? God has put plant life all over the earth. And you know what that plant life does? It takes in what we breathe out, and it emits what we breathe in. It's ingenious. It's ingenious that we are living in the midst of these oxygen producers. It's incredible. And they're all over the world. God has done that. That didn't happen by chance. That happened by chance. That plants take in carbon dioxide and emit oxygen. I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? that happen by chance? Is another aspect of the balance of nature. Evaporation. Evaporation. What is that? Vapor goes up, the water comes down. Right? Vapor goes up, we don't see it. It comes down in the rain. We see it in the dew. So it's like water down, water up, water down, water up, water down. Water goes up, it regathers itself, it comes down, and it waters the plants that make the oxygen. I'm like, oh, how cool is that? That is the coolest thing. God doesn't have this pump somewhere pumping out oxygen. It's in the grass. It's in the trees. It's in all the green leaves. And water goes up and rain comes down. And it waters everything. Called evaporation. You know what I learned from the Word of God? That lightning serves a purpose. You know what lightning does? It creates nitrogen, which comes down as fertilizer upon the earth. That through lightning, God feeds the plant life. I'm like, how smart is God? He uses lightning to feed the plant life that also takes in water through rain that's been evaporated so it can produce the oxygen that we need to breathe. That happened by chance? I'm like, I don't think so. No, 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 I don't smoke it no more. That's what these intellects need to sing, because they're still smoking it, because they're not getting it. How about the tides? High tide and low tide. What do? Keep the ocean fresh. You know, the moon is responsible for the tides. If the moon was off a degree or two, it'd be a mess down here. It's in the perfect spot, perfect, to create high tide and low tide. You know, it's like the ocean's got to keep moving. If it gets stagnant, you know what happens? It stinketh. Stagnant water, no good. Got to keep moving. Moving water is good. Stagnant water, no good. So what did God do? God put the moon right there. Perfect spot. Perfect. Creates high tide and low tide. Keeps the oceans moving. It's amazing. For all this to happen, the sun and the moon have to be in the exact position from the earth. Can't leave out the sun. If it was any closer, we'd burn up. If it was any further away, we'd all freeze. It's like the perfect spot. Are you kidding me? The perfect spot. So if you're really honest and you look at nature, and all these things in nature, they didn't happen by chance. That's why the Bible says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Because possibly with all of their learning, they know nothing. They know nothing at all. The balance of nature. There's no way it's a coincidence. There's too many. You got too many. You got photosynthesis, plants turning carbon dioxide into oxygen. You've got evaporation, bringing up the moisture to send it down as rain. You've got lightning, producing nitrogen as a fertilizer for the world. You've got a high tide and low tide, allowing the oceans to replenish themselves, to stay fresh. Well, I'm glad I didn't get through the whole thing. Tomorrow I'll come back, and we're going to see the third way that God has revealed himself. And you know how God has revealed himself? Oh man, this is going to be the best one of all. In the nature of man, in mankind's nature. Think of it. God has revealed himself in us. I'm like, oh, how cool is that? God has revealed himself in us. I don't know about you. I like this message. I like it a lot. It's so simple and so practical, and it makes so much sense. Share this program today. Share it. People need to hear how God has revealed himself to humanity. And why has God done that? Because he loves us, and he wants us to know him, and he wants our lives to conform to sound doctrine, sound teaching, so we can have better lives and better families and a better attitude and a better outlook. And how about this? Security and freedom in him. So do that, okay? Share that with people that need to know God. Let me give you a little glimpse into Sunday morning here at New Hope, 9 and 11 a.m. We're in a series entitled Life Lessons from Bible People. And there's a nice principle, one of the many principles that we're going to learn this Sunday. And you know what it is? When man conquers you, you're oppressed. When God conquers you, you're free. Think about that. When man conquers, you're oppressed. When God conquers, you're free. Join us Sunday right here at New Hope, 9 and 11 a.m., Route 6, Swansea, Massachusetts. Can't make it to church? Stream us right here. This place right here. NewHopeCC.tv. Click Facebook. Click YouTube. We will be there live and in person. Thank you for coming along today. Join me tomorrow as we continue with this topic right here on New Hope Radio.